And welcome everyone to a special edition of the Shitlord Preachers. I am Amos Joseph. Today, just by flying solo as the host, Brooke Potter being in the UK is sleeping. So it's about 2 in the morning for him over there. But for the first time since we started, we are having a couple of guests from Hapa Supremacy, Shaine and Nicolette. They're a couple of half Asian abominations. No, mixed people, just like myself, who are also libertarians. They have their own channel, Hapa Supremacy. I'll leave all the links in the description below, and we'll be talking. So we'll be talking to them today. So yeah, introduce yourself, guys.
Well, like you said, I'm Shaine and she's Nicolette, and we're two half Asian abominations.
And I can actually talk, but I just don't. I'm not good at talking, so you can keep talking.
Yeah. So yeah, we're abominations, and we're half Asian racists, and we.
Whoa! Are you putting that label on me? All right, thanks.
Well, I'm just I'm just going along with him calling us abominations, so I gotta go along with it.
I mean, we're the alt-right's absolute nightmare.
I know, right?
Yep. What are they gonna do with us?
I don't know. I guess put us in gulags or something.
Okay, let's not talk about that.
Well, there is always the talk of forming our own ethno-state, but that's,
yeah, there you go.
That's a whole other topic too. But yeah, I met them. Had a little chat with them few days ago. Kind of found them through different, just through digging in the internet, and found there's this couple of, because you guys are, just to put out there, you guys are to get dating and everything, right? Dating, living together.
Yeah.
So just for my viewers, I guess.
Yeah, we're not brother and sister. Stop saying that, people.
I mean,
that's racist.
Actually, retarded brother.
Yeah, he's the mentally handicapped brother, and I'm the fat girl, according to.
Yeah.
But found out you guys had this whole channel called Hapa Supremacy, and I'm gonna keep saying this, but I still never knew about that word till I found out about you guys. Looked up the whole thing, found out there was this whole community of depressed, oppressed, half Asian people, which is kind of what we're gonna dive into. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you guys are a couple of libertarians, outliers to society, not conforming to the well, I guess we would be considered political non-binary, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that word now.
Political non-binary, non-political conforming.
Yeah.
Non-binary.
Libertarians, somehow we're at fault for Trump being elected, I guess.
Yeah. If libertarians had such power, Gary Johnson would be president right now, right? Thank God, actually, he's not. But.
I know. I was going to say, who wants Gary Johnson to be president?
Yeah. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. Anyway,
yeah.
So much stuff we could be talking about. But yeah, half Asians. We're a bunch of half Asians. I'm half Chinese, but yeah, half Chinese, speak the language and everything. Grew up here and there. And you guys are like a bunch of one. I'm just kidding. No, you guys are. Let's see, Shaine. You said you're half Korean.
Yeah.
North or South Korean?
North for sure. I'm a spy, so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Letting everyone know.
Shit.
And Nicolette, you're.
My mom's Filipino Chinese, so. I guess I'm like really a mutt.
Yeah, but I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, at least not like American mutts that are like every European country in one.
Well, that's my dad, right? So then that makes me worse.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, there aren't too many Asian mutts, so to speak, like sort of European mutts.
Yeah, I think Asian culture like they really want to dictate, like, okay, we are Koreans and we're going to stay Korean, and we're Chinese and we're going to stay Chinese, like that kind of thing.
Found this meme today. It said career choices in an Asian family. Either you're a doctor, lawyer, a musician, or a disgrace to your family.
That's true.
Yeah.
All my mom's side of the family, everybody's nurses and doctors or architects. Did you know that? That's popular too.
Architects.
My brother's an architect also.
So I'm guessing they want to like.
And I'm in healthcare, so it all works out.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm guessing they want more architects, I guess, to build more skyscrapers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Asia is definitely coming into the skyscraper world. You guys know about you guys know much about Taiwan?
I don't know too much about it. Do you?
Do you know about the Taipei 101? Used to be the tallest building in the world.
Yeah, then there's other building. I guess it's going to be like a foot taller or something, right? Than that.
Well, there was the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. That one is the tallest now. And then I guess in the next decade or something, there's going to be a kilometer-tall building in the Middle East that'll be completed. So I just saw some video about that today. It's like, anyways. But I guess the main thing we're going to be talking about here is, so if for those of you watching, if you do go to the Hapa's subreddit, I briefly went through it. It is an SJW haven. Just everyone thinks they're oppressed, and which is it's just you got these half Asians, half white people that are struggling with their own identity and theorizing about how messed up they are because their parents are, decided to get married and have kids. So I guess what are your guys' thoughts on why, I guess as a whole, just to start off, what do you think about the Hapa community as a whole?
Well, now that you mentioned it on your stream, if they find you, now they're going to talk about you. So you better go put your name into the Reddit and find it. As soon as I made a Twitter, I wasn't even, I was nobody before, I didn't have any followers or anything. And they found me somehow. I don't know. I feel like they go out looking for people who have different opinions to go shame them.
Basically more center, or basically, if you want to say, right of them.
Yeah, they think that if you're not buying into their narrative that it's racist, you have a white father and an Asian mother, then there's then you're probably just messed up, and you just think that because you're racist, basically.
Yeah, you're a product of white supremacy. Because the dad's white. If it was the other way around, if it was an Asian dad and a white mom, that's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah, they worship that there.
Yeah.
I saw something on that, and that was very confusing to me. Because they say, well, if you're a white man marrying an Asian woman, well, you're sort of engaging in white supremacy and sort of fetishizing Asian women, and that, and she's almost like property, and it's just, and then you're just you're fucked up. But then it's the other way around. Well, then knock yourself out.
Let's have sex with as many white women as we want.
Yeah, then it's okay.
And it's
because not a white woman isn't fetishizing an Asian man or something.
Yeah, that never happens. Never.
Yeah, never.
Ever.
Not even with all the K-pop stuff going on. That never happens.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the K-pop. I guess. It's kind of would you say it's similar to in the black community how it's portrayed? Black guys with white women, but then you don't really hear much about white men with black women. I guess have you guys? Because there is a different. I mean, how it's portrayed, how it's perceived is definitely different.
There's a. I mean, they did surveys based on dating websites, and they showed who was most popular matches and stuff like that, and it came out that Asian men with other races and black women with other races was the least popular, and then So they assume that based off of that they're being discriminated against. So I think it's probably pretty similar to that, because you do see that couple more often, just like you see Asian women with white men more often. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like a fetish on their part, and it also doesn't mean that it's prejudice. It's just preference. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't know.
So to go a little further, you guys have used dating websites, right?
Use dating websites?
No, yeah. Unless you talk about Twitter, because that's how we met.
Yeah.
Have you guys known anyone that's on dating websites?
Not personally, no.
Okay.
Not really, because like it's hard to find Hapas. Like it's funny because like when you're walking around and you see someone, you're like, oh, that person's half Asian.
Yeah.
But then it's not like it's not as common. Like I don't know anyone personally who's on a dating website right now.
Have you guys ever been if you want to say it's not misgender, it's misethnic, I don't know, misidentified in your ethnicity as Hispanic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten everything. Someone thought I was Arabic. Someone thought I was Russian. Someone thought I was Hispanic. Are you Chinese? No. Are you Japanese? No. It's like I almost get everything.
The most common ones I always got was with Hispanic. They're like, oh, I thought you were Mexican. No, the thing about dating is I've actually noticed, I saw some video a while ago, but I even kind of experienced this myself. If you're on a dating website, they've said as an Asian man, but even if you're like Hapa, which is easily kind of seen as Asian, depending upon who you ask, I would actually attract like people that were like clicking on my profile and stuff were usually like black women.
Oh, really?
So I asked a friend about it. My friend Brooke here, he's like more mixed than me. He's like apparently like he told me today 10% like Nigerian. He's like part Chinese. He's got like a whole bunch of like, and then he's part British even in there too. There's like a whole bunch. He's literally like, you know, colonialism gone wrong. Just everyone was having kids. But he passes as like a very, I guess, normal looking white guy. But he was telling me about, I guess there's statistics that have shown like certain races just for some reason are attracted to different ones. Like mixed people attract different people depending on their mix, how they look and stuff. And so when I was telling him like, hey, you know, there's all these like black girls on my profile, and he goes, oh yeah, that's normal because you're an Asian guy. And I'm like, what?
I didn't know that was a thing.
Apparently it is. There's like, I guess if you like dig deep in the internet about like dating statistics, like what on dating websites, what kinds of people tend to be attracted to different kinds. And if you look at like, okay, Asian men, what kind of people do they attract? Well, in some cases Asian women, but other races as well. So
yeah. I mean, I think it's like that for any race, really. I mean, you can be any race and you're going to attract whoever you're going to attract. I mean, you can't really help it.
But there could be trends too, but that's just racist if we even mention something like that, if the stats say that.
Right.
Yep.
But, excuse me. So the one thing I guess is to really hit on is why are Hapas in general, I'm going to say in general because there's a whole community of them, why do you guys think Hapas are so, just why are they so left-leaning? Why is there this SJW mentality? At least from what we've seen in the subreddit.
Mm-hmm. So I think that our culture, like Western culture as a whole, kind of glorifies like the victimhood part of being like a person of color. So if you're half, then that counts. So they would more likely be left-leaning because they want to be part of that type of like narrative. Also, I think it's like a mix of identity issues, and then they also see that in the culture, in the media and everything, and then they assume that that's the reason why they're having an identity issue. What do you think?
Yeah, because I mean, you know how it is now when you look at when you're how white people are treated, and they're just, you know, I guess that, well, depending on your political aim, if you're a left-leaning white person, you're not as shit, you know, treated as shit as if you're on the right, you know, right-leaning or whatever. But so I guess for them, it's more cool to be on the left side than on the right.
I mean, even like when you, okay, this is a good question. When you have to check like what race you are and you can only check one box, what race do you check? Especially if it's like a job or if it's like school or something.
I put Asian.
I put Asian because you get a better.
Is there a mixed thing to click on? In some cases, they'll have a mixed check you can do.
Nowadays they do, but I remember like when I was in college, they only had one, like check one box. So I checked Asian.
Sometimes even if they do have the 2 or more races or ethnicities.
Nowadays they do the 2 or more.
So do I.
And I'm like white Asian. Or sometimes it'll say like Asian or Pacific Islander. And it's like, I guess. I
feel like our culture gives, I don't know, more attention to that type of thing. So if you would check Asian, you'd probably more likely get more consideration.
Yeah.
Right. Huh. The thing
Yeah, you got to play the game.
Exactly. Play the identity politics game. Yeah. The big thing for me, I guess, I mean, growing up, being half and half, first off, I felt it was a very rare thing. Like I said, before I even knew much about this whole community, I had friends and stuff that were like half Asian, but they were like half other as well, not like non-white. So it would be like half Asian. Like I had these friends. They were these 2 kids. They were half Asian, so the dad was Asian and the mom was actually South African. But she was like a little more light-skinned. So they were born and they were like, they could almost pass as like Indian, which is interesting. And so there was that. And but a lot of the people that I like knew about, so when I was in Taiwan growing up, a lot of kids that were like half and half, a lot of Hapa or just half Asian in general kids, they would all go to a lot of like American schools. There's a lot of international schools there. I was the weird one that went to a public school, and here I am, the one white guy basically in a class of, you know, hundreds. It was always just sort of this odd one out. Growing up, I didn't really have much chance to really like be sort of a normal kid, except like one time. So our school did like a school-wide English speech competition. I won it, being the only American in the entire school. I gave this speech about bathroom sanitate, like clean bathrooms, in like 3rd grade. I gave this speech in English and won the thing. That was like the only real moment that I like did anything significant in school. The rest was just like, I'm this white kid and a sea of Asians.
Was part of your speech where you say when you clean the bathroom, don't lick the toilet? That's not how you clean
it. No. It was just I forgot exactly what it was. I remember like if I asked my parents, my mom would remember it. I just like I typed up some like very basic thing. My parents like helped me expand on like a few sentences I wrote. We wrote this whole thing. It was like a 3-minute speech, and I like just sat down and memorized this. It was like about a page long. I memorized the whole thing, and which is really interesting. In Taiwan, the education system is very different from ours. So like here in the States, we can talk about public education all day, and it's a whole mess, you know. But the big thing is the thought process with them. Like Americans tend to be people that are more innovative, think outside the box. Taiwan education is more along the lines of just memorization.
Right.
memorize all the facts in the world, memorize all the answers, and you'll succeed. You know, they get higher math scores and they excel in those areas because they're just straight computational sort of thinking. Whereas here in America, we tend to allow sort of this, we allow sort of like a capitalistic education. Like people can excel at different levels.
Right.
But not everyone is held to this standard as much, so to speak. But I grew up, completely kind of felt like this sort of odd one out. And I see some of the stuff, and you guys could probably kind of relate. You see some of the stuff, you hear about the stories of these kids growing up that are Hapa, that they kind of felt out like an outlier. They struggled to sort of identify with just being themselves.
Yeah.
And depending upon how they handle that, which, like you said, the whole narrative now is this victim mentality. A lot of them are following that. They're kind of playing the race card, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They can't crack a joke that one side, you know, half of them is telling the other half to build a railroad.
Yeah.
Isn't that how all the railroads are built?
I know.
Exactly. The Asians, the Chinese
people, yeah.
The Chinese people were slaves too, so fuck off.
Yeah, how come they're not complaining?
Well, the thing. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I know what you're talking about because I actually, like, most of my friends growing up were Asian, like full Asian, and then whenever I would see my Asian side of my family, I just felt like they thought of me as a white person. But then when I was with like white people, then they would think of me as an Asian person. So it's a little bit confusing. But I think at the same time, it also kind of gives you an advantage because you're both. So you can make fun of both, or you can be part of two groups. So
you can make Asian jokes. And
yeah, you can make Asian jokes and you can make white jokes and not get help for it. But I think it's just how you take it, you know. Like if you decide that everything that's going wrong in your life is because you're a victim, then you're gonna take it that way.
Because nowadays people just wake up and they go, "Oh, what can I get offended by today?"
Yeah, exactly.
That's the mentality that most people have, you know.
Exactly.
What kind of jokes are people gonna say so I can, you know,
say
something
offended
about it, and then I can get them fired from their job for saying something stupid or whatever? It's just,
right.
People joke about shit all the time.
Well, so funny little fact. I actually have a Chinese name, and my surname in Chinese is Wang. Or if you want, depending on how you spell it, you can spell W-O-N-G, or if people want to spell Wang. But being half white and the other half being my Chinese side, I would joke I'm half white and half Wang. Or half cracker, half fortune cookie.
Oh, that's a good one too. Even though technically fortune cookie is also American. So.
Yeah, there's another Hapa who's like one of my friends on Twitter, and her Twitter handle is alt rice cracker. I was like, that's really good. Should have thought of that.
That's not right. But yeah, like seeing this victim mentality, I've been like, one of the things I really like to talk about and think about is, so like, where did the victim mentality come from? Specifically, even like it can lead into like why is Antifa a thing?
It's Marxist.
What's that?
It's the Marxist, or like cultural Marxist stuff that's been seeping in.
Right, but I mean, what has led so many people into that? What is I call it societal boredom. So I think basically we're a society right now. I mean, America's, definitely plenty of problems, but compared to the rest of the world, we're definitely not a shithole country. We're definitely a country that I'd say is, I firmly believe America is probably the best country in the world, just for the freedoms we have, the opportunities we have in this country. With that being said, we're at a point now of what people call decadence. Basically, it's where things are going so well for us that we basically start to instead of sort of looking outward, like being being a people sort of affecting change, doing great things, we sort of start looking inward, and we start to criticize ourselves, start to doubt ourselves. We sort of become bored with being like having what we have, and we start looking inwards and start saying, okay, we suck because all this stuff. And it's sort of like a boredom. Like if you had, not like you had everything, but you had a lot going for you, eventually you kind of get bored. But I think as a society, we've sort of gone down this path of like, well, like we don't deserve what we have. Like, and on one hand, they want to go and say, they want to like demonize our, like, you know, all white people are racist. We're all slave owners.
Yeah.
But, and then they try to like focus so much on the bad of our past. Like I think every country, from what I've seen, every country has a very bloody past. Like,
yeah.
Humanity as a whole is very bloody leading up to that. And we focus too much on that. And then I think we sort of overcompensate.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the decline of a first world society, because now we have so much time to, like, we've kind of gotten to the point where we have like enough time to think about this stuff and overanalyze it, and now. Because
there's, I mean, not that I advocate for anything, but like the times that made America, where America did great things, was when we were confronted with some sort of threat. Like I've talked about this in one of my videos, and I basically said, like, we need like aliens to invade or something for like us to focus on what's really important.
Right.
Because we're not really going to get mad at other countries. It's not like Russia's going to do something crazy except meddle with our elections apparently all the time.
Right.
But like, there's no real thing to sort of make us focus on what's important. And so, leading into sort of the thing with kind of how if you want to call it Hapa depression, it like people want to feel significant because they feel like sort of in that thought process, that introspection of thinking, well, I have all this privilege, I don't feel significant. And you have people like Antifa that want to become part of a movement to sort of, you know, stick it to fascism in America, because that's a thing. Or with Hapas, they want to like feel significant because they're like, well, I'm white, so this privilege really fucks up my identity. So I gotta like be Asian, you know, to feel victimized. Like, if white people, like, if they ever figured out genetic engineering where you could change your race, like at a genetic level today, like, I think so many white people would like introduce like colors into like races into their genes to make them like victimized.
Yeah, I kind of said, I said something, I was like, I can see that happening in like the next 5 years if, you know, white people are just gonna, I'm gonna get pigmentation surgery so I can be black, or, you know, darken my skin. You know, I'm not white or whatever, not like Sean King or Dolezal bullshit, you know. Oh, I'm black. No, you're not. But, you know, probably like legit make their skin like different, like
maybe get like facial
permanent
surgery.
Yeah.
But I mean, even like where they could like they're gonna start like splicing like babies' genetics. Like, well,
oh, so no, like their baby turns out white. I don't want a white baby. I want it to be more black or something. Okay, we can do this with the DNA to make it
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
You're gonna have like this like two like this white couple that's gonna be like.
So basically, we're gonna have people play God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll call it genetic cuckoldry.
That'd be another Black Mirror episode or something.
People
doing that, where you want to change your kid to be black.
People can't choose, like, they can't choose the gender of the kid yet, right? I hope not.
They're saying, so like you hear about like CRISPR, this genetic engineering technology. They're saying it's going to get to the point where it's possible.
See, because when we start doing that, then it will roll into whatever you just said about the race thing too.
Yeah, it'll be like race, gender. Like, I mean, someone will probably be able to pull off like, I'm going to be like an asexual person of color that is disabled.
That's terrible.
What a terrible life. Can't have sex? You're not attracted to anybody? Wow.
And you're
gay.
and you're born disabled.
Yeah, how gay.
Literally. Just kidding.
Yeah.
The world's going to be a very weird place if things keep going the way they're going. Like there's like thoughts people are saying like either we're going to keep going down this path, basically shoot ourselves in both feet, or there's going to be a backlash where we're going to like take a real big step back and be like, okay, we've gone a little too crazy here. Like, yeah, like yes, we want equality. Yes, people can do whatever they want with their bodies, do these things, but y'all getting crazy and forcing it down everyone's throat. We got to step back, chill out for a bit. It's always 2 steps back, 3 steps forward is how we progress as people. That's always been the case.
That's a good way of looking at it, yeah.
But we just gotta be cautious, I guess. So Hapa's the thing with it that I like. How do you think like Hapa's should like? I guess as a whole, do they like you guys? I mean, you guys know a few, like quite a few. So, what have they done to sort of combat, if you want to call this, existential dread that they have? Like, what have they? Have they? Do they embrace their more Asian side? Do they embrace their more white side? Do they sort of come out with this whole different identity? Are they just their own people? You guys get what I'm asking?
Sort of. I feel like you kind of have to embrace both sides in order to be comfortable with yourself. And in the end, we're all individuals, so you have to base your life and your decisions off of other aspects of your life, I guess. But also don't forget both cultures influencing.
Right.
Yeah, I think just need to stop, blaming one side and embracing the other. I think we just need to embrace them both because, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't change it, at least not now, But
what have you guys done in the past to like? How do you embrace both in Nicolette's case, multiple sides? Just kidding. How do you, have you gone more in depth with your more? Because being in America, I mean, if you want to say white culture, there's not really much to find in that unless you want to go into for me, my white side is mainly Polish. Well, I don't know much about Polish culture, but I do know a lot about Chinese culture. So my white side, I just say, well, being American. Yeah,
I mean, I think as far as like white culture, if you grew up in America and you have generations of white Americans, that's the white culture part of it. America has its own culture, but a lot of the Asian side, or like Asian people who have immigrated here haven't been here for that many generations, so they still keep their own culture from their original country. So I think just learning about that side, and then especially if you live in America, because then you already kind of have American culture in you. Then you just have to learn about the other side and make sure that you don't forget where your roots come from.
Yeah, I know for me, I'm way more white, the way I act and everything, than Asian.
Yeah, but you think you are, but you're not really.
Yeah. I think, I don't know.
No, like when I met you seem like a stereotypical half Asian because you're into a lot of Asian stuff and you know a lot about Asian culture, but you think you don't because you live here and you grew up.
I think that's kind of a common thing, actually, now that I think about it. Like half Asians, at least with me, like, okay, for example, like I embrace like American culture, sort of like this, when they call me white, like I act white, but then I'm like, a lot of my interests are like what an Asian person would have.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I think about you, because
no, really.
Even though I had to,
we all watch anime, right?
I could use chopsticks, but I've never used them as much as I do now.
Yeah. So now when I pack his lunch, I'll put chopsticks in there to force him to use
Like, no, what are you doing? Give me a fork.
What do you pack that uses chopsticks though?
Salad. Salad is so much easier to eat with chopsticks. I'm just saying that right now. I said that on Twitter, and people like lost their mind.
Yeah, that was like a big thing for the day. Like, you're serious?
No, it's true. Forks are hard to use.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with her. She can't use it. I watch her eat with a fork and knife, and it's like, are we like living in like Japan or something?
Well, you eat like you're in Britain.
Yeah, I'm very formal in the way I eat.
He eats it with a fork. Wait, on this side?
Yeah, fork in my left hand and a knife in my right.
Are you guys left-handed?
No, he's just British.
That's how they eat, because
his white side is British.
Yeah, because whenever I spent time with my grandparents, we'd always eat like that. So it just kind of became a habit of mine, and that's how it is.
Jeez, I can get like really into identity politics. Be like, I'm half Asian, I'm libertarian, so I'm even a smaller minority, and I'm left-handed.
Hey, there you go. I should start doing that. I eat with my left hand.
Well, you know, do you know that girl with an opinion on YouTube?
That girl.
Like her literal YouTube name is that girl with.
Oh, okay. I was like, there are a lot of girls with opinions.
No. Well, she's starting the Left No State. It's for people who are left-handed.
So when I was applying for colleges, I actually one of the things my parents were like looking through different colleges and stuff, and they're like, "Hey, there's a college here. They have a left-handers scholarship." I'm like, "They what?" She goes, "Yeah, you get like there's like $1,000 as a scholarship for being left-handed." I was like, she's like, "But it's way down in Texas," I'm up here in Minnesota, and I was like, no. And we'd even talked about back then, like, well, what if I like brought in like, well, I'm half Asian, like I could get something, you know.
I applied when I was applying for colleges. I got tons of money just for being half Asian. I was like, wow, this is great. I should just put that I'm full Asian on all my applications.
There you go.
I kind of wish I was part Native American, because here in Minnesota they have so all the casinos in Minnesota are on Native American reservations. Mm-hmm. If you're a Native American, as soon as you turn 18, you essentially get a share of the profits.
Really?
Yep. So there's I actually the area that I'm in, there's like one nearby, and I knew some people that were basically when they turned 18, they got like $100,000 just to start, and then they get like a $10,000 check every month.
What?
Yeah, it's their profit share for being part of the tribe.
You should be part of the tribe. I'm 1/10.
Hey, Elizabeth Warren's Native American. I mean, yeah. Get that money.
Yeah.
The thing is they used to be. So what had happened was way back when they started this, if you want to say, system of how they took care of their own. They would give them like a lump sum of like a couple million when they turned 18.
That's crazy.
And just let them go. So a lot of them like would either buy houses or like buy a shit ton of cars, crash them all. Just they go nuts, like winning the lottery. So nowadays, what they do is they turn 18, they give them a lump sum, and they have a financial advisor. They have to go through classes to learn how to handle money, and then they slowly give them money as time goes on. They give them like more of a monthly check rather than one big lump sum. And then to basically make them be a little more responsible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a, you know, if you want to say that's a race thing that they can play.
How much % Native American do you have to be to get that?
It was like more. You got to be like 1/16 or 1/8.
1/16 or 1. I bet I could figure out.
I'm 5%. Is that good enough?
You gotta be like within the tribe itself. You can't just be Native American. Period.
So then, what does being part of the tribe mean? Do you have to like go to meetings?
No. Your lineage has to be to a certain tribe.
How do they like? That seems really hard to track, especially since how mixed Native Americans are today.
Well, overall they're more mixed, but there are some that live in certain areas that are part of the tribe, and
Guess if they live on reservations, but I don't know about Minnesota though.
Yeah.
Minnesota has a few reservations. Some of them have casinos, so that people live well, and then some of them are like in the middle of nowhere, and there's like drugs and alcohol problems.
Yeah, when I used to live in New Mexico, and it was kind of like that out there too. A lot of reservations out there, they had it seemed like it was out in the middle of the desert, first of all, and then second of all, a lot of the people had like drug or alcohol problems. So
yeah, just when you thought Hapas could be very depressed, holy crap, Native Americans.
Sure.
Now the thing now.
For that.
Yeah, no, right. Our native. It's our land, not yours.
So
racist.
We're all a bunch of racists. Asians. What I think is really interesting about Asians, and you guys can share your thoughts on this too, is how not oppressed they are. Like, we're the most successful ethnic group in this country.
Yeah, especially Indians. Dot, not feather.
Got an argument with someone about that.
Yeah.
Exactly. There was someone made a joke that I heard. They were like, you have the slavery issue with blacks, and it's been a while since slavery's ended.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's been, obviously the Jim Crow laws and civil rights. We can talk about that's a whole nother thing. But like, you look at how different races, when they sort of came out of some sense of oppression or being treated second class, and it's interesting how you see like the Asians, like World War II, they came right out of it, like just going after it. Right after World War II, with the internment camps, with the Japanese and everything, right as soon as they were, that was over, this guy made the joke. He said, it's like the moment they came out of those internment camps, they were owning like dry cleaning franchises, all of them. And
yeah, donut shops.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, well, fuck you, we got this.
And then they sent all their kids to Harvard, and next thing you know, you have one of the most successful groups in America.
Mm-hmm.
And we're supposed to be so oppressed because we're a minority.
Yeah, if anyone has privilege here in America, it's the Asians. I mean, Jesus,
Yeah.
We make the most money. We make the best. Most of them have the best grades.
Yeah, except for I'm waiting for my half Asian or my Asian privilege and my white privilege and my privilege to know math well, because I'm not like, this is not working out for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. Like in school here in the States, it was like, aren't you supposed to be good at math? I'm like,
I got that all the time. Yeah, it's like, no, I'm still in geometry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2 + 2 is 6, right?
Well,
exactly. I tried like tapping into my Asian side. I made it to calculus 2, and was like, no, my Asian powers couldn't go any further.
Can you draw?
Can I what?
Can you draw well?
No.
All the Asians I know can draw well, including me, except for you.
I can't draw with the shit.
I can drive.
Well, I can't drive that well. You're pretty good at driving.
I'm pretty good at driving. It's funny watching her drive though. She gets more mad than I
do. Do you guys know any martial arts?
Mm-mm.
If you had talked to me about 15, 20 years ago, a little bit, but not now.
As a kid?
Yeah.
What did you take?
I took a semester. It was like an after-school program of Taekwondo. So I never that was it. So I'm not the best.
I watch martial arts movies. Does that count?
Exactly. And I tell people this is actually true, and it's not to it's kind of like, so and so who I knew that knew someone else that knew someone else who knew this person. So apparently my mom knew about because we're Taiwanese. We say we're Taiwanese, but we're like my grandmother and my grandfather on my mom's side, they're from China.
Right.
They basically escaped communist China. There was a civil war back in the 50s, and then they went to Taiwan, all that. Growing up, apparently, like, you would have, I think it would have been like one of my great uncles or something. Like, you would always have like a kid that was like, there's like respecting your elders is a big thing in Chinese culture.
Right.
So, and then they kind of people or kids growing up would be in settings that sort of train them to like just be in a respectful manner, like serving tea, things like that. And so there was this kid that apparently they knew in China growing up, and he would like, when they're playing like mahjong or whatever. So there's like be like a table of them playing mahjong, and there'd be like a kid like serving tea. Well, apparently there was this kid who was serving tea to like my great grandfather, great uncle or something. Jackie Chan.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that's a tall tale.
Who was that again? Jackie Chan?
Jackie Chan, yeah, apparently.
I don't know who that is.
Now, I don't know if that, like I said, I don't know if that's entirely true, but I mean, I could play the whole, I mean, that's kind of like saying, I'm kind of related to Jackie Chan. Kind of like how with black people, everyone's your cousin.
Right. Man, speaking of his history is pretty crazy. I mean, because I know, like I was talking earlier about martial arts movies, I know a lot about his history and all that. So I was a massive, massive fan of his. I mean, I still am, but not as much as I was.
Jackie Chan?
Yeah.
I've heard, and then, of course, my mom would always go on about, like, how Bruce Lee was, she'd show me videos and
Right.
typical videos of the crazy feats he would pull off.
Oh, yeah.
Our family always watched martial arts movies. But
who's your favorite?
I mean, Jackie Chan, he's kind of like the all-around guy.
Yeah.
And then you have, Jet Li, who's very much like, sort of like I like him, but he doesn't like, all he really has is like, he actually has the skills in real life.
Right. For sure, yeah.
I mean, Jackie Chan does too, but Jackie Chan, he's more of a performer. He's actually mentioned in interviews, like, he's like, the martial arts, he goes, the martial arts I do are definitely like practical, but they're more for the purpose of performing.
Right, yeah, because I mean, he trained in opera, so I mean, that makes sense.
Right. Jet Li actually has, he has like what I call street cred.
Right.
But I really like, I mean, nowadays I would have to like Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
With his
Donnie Yen's definitely taken over the field for sure.
Oh yeah, with the movies that he's doing, how he's basically kind of brought it to America through his movies.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's funny how that, it's interesting to talk about them, because like I have friends, I have a friend from high school. He always talked about like he was really into like the Chuck Norris jokes back when it was like a really big deal, and he was like, well, Chuck Norris is like the coolest. And then when I learned more about martial artists, I was like, well, Bruce Lee was the only one to beat him.
Yeah, but it was a Bruce Lee movie, so obviously he was going to lose.
Right. But in a movie setting, in a TV show setting, Chuck Norris never lost.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, obviously.
Unless it was against Bruce Lee in his own movie.
Right. Do you have a favorite martial arts movie, or just in that whole genre? Or I know what mine is, 100%.
Mine would probably be Ip Man 2 for something that's more today's movie.
Okay.
Simply because it has one of my favorite, I think my favorite scene is the table fight scene.
Oh, with Sammo Hung?
Yeah, yep. Where he had to fight all the masters, like just how quick that was and how they played that. That's one of my favorite kung fu, like, martial arts scenes. Believe it or not, I don't know if you know this, So you've seen The Matrix.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their shooting style and how they did, like the fighting,
Mm-hmm.
they took that from Chinese martial arts movie choreographers.
Well, right, because Yuen Wu-ping choreographed the fights.
Right. So that was one of the, like, people thought it was like the most amazing thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
we've never seen this before. But then, like, in reality, like, Chinese movies have been doing it for years.
Yeah.
If you look back, because growing up in Taiwan, I would watch a lot of martial arts movies, like older ones, movies from like the 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
And the shooting style was there. Like, that was just normal. They perfected how to shoot a fight scene properly. And ever since The Matrix, everyone that's kind of gotten into more Western movies, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They would call it gun fu. Like the John Woo movies, Hard Boiled, The Killer.
Right.
You can even like the Ringo Lam movies, but Ringo Lam movies are more kind of, I guess, over the top, type of more serious type movies, and John Woo was more like the theatrical, beautiful. Look how awesome I can make a gunfight, how sexy I can
Gun
make it,
fu.
Yeah.
But what was I gonna say here? Okay, did you say what was your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Police Story of all time.
Oh.
That's a Jackie Chan movie. That's
Yep. No, I know about Police Story. It was
that's the best movie I've ever seen. Ever.
I've seen the recent ones. I haven't seen the whole thing. Like, that's one of the things that's bad. It's like, I like all these martial artists, but I've only seen like the American movies they were in.
Yeah.
So, like, if I could tell you, like, I've seen some, like,
you're talking about Jackie Chan movies, right?
Jackie Chan movies, Jet Li movies.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Donnie Yen, if you want to say the American movies he's in, he's only ever in, like, what, the Star Wars movie?
He was in Blade 2. He was actually in the newest XXX movie, which I haven't seen, but...
Wait, he was in Blade 2?
Yeah.
Well, then again, it's Blade. I mean...
Yeah.
I hear people talk crap about Blade. Blade was awesome, and then, like, people are like, what was Blade 3?
Blade 3 had Deadpool in it, I think, or
something.
I know Ryan Reynolds was in it, but I'm not talking. I don't remember I can't remember, but yeah, Blade 3 is whatever. I don't even know. That's the whole point. I don't know.
Do you watch a lot of martial arts movies, Nicolette?
I just watch whatever he watches.
Oh, is that how it is? She's like, oh, fighting guys movies. No.
I don't mind. I like it, but I'm weird. Like, I won't watch a movie by myself. I have to be with someone else. Can't do it.
Yeah,
you guys,
like with the newer Jackie Chan movies, or whatever. They're fine, but they're definitely. I mean, obviously, they're not going to be as good as his old ones. I mean, that's pretty much a given.
He's getting old.
Yeah, but did you see The Foreigner?
That was a really good movie.
No, I have not. I've seen a lot of ads for it. But.
That's probably the best movie I think he's done in the last 10, 15 years. Because it's not just because of the action; it's just really intense. But his acting is really good in it. It's just an all-around best performance in the last 10, 15 years, and that's counting Chinese Zodiac, which is really good action. I watched Kung Fu Yoga recently, and that was kind of.
Was that the one we watched? The last one.
Yeah, with the stupid.
That was weird.
With the lion in the car, and it's like, come on, this is so goofy.
And they end up in a cave.
Yeah, they even skipped Trace with Johnny Knoxville.
That one movie that we saw that was like him on a train most of the time.
It was called
that was a Chinese movie.
Railroad Tiger or something. It's on Netflix.
That was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, that was all right.
It was better than the yoga one.
Oh well, yeah, it was better than the yoga one for sure.
So the weird thing about like Chinese movies for me, I mean, first off, speaking Chinese, like when I see some of these movies, and they try to have Americans speak Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, all the Ip Man movies.
Yeah.
Hearing the Americans or the white people or even Mike Tyson.
Well, usually they're just dubbed over. Like he'll say he'll speak English, but they'll just dub over him.
Yeah.
Well, but no, I've actually heard like it's funny because they also do it for when they speak English as well.
Yeah.
So there's like the Chinese, which just has a heavy accent, and then there's the English, which sounds sort of overtly done, stereotypical American.
Right.
You know, like there was like a scene with in the Ip Man movie when that one cop was dealing with like the American guy that like ran the police station, and he's like, "You will take the money, and do as you're told." And I'm like, who the fuck talks like this?
I know, right?
And they'll have like a really heavy American accent in the Chinese they speak. And I'm like, I get it, but like, because they always talk about like you hear these different movies, they'll actually hire like language experts, coaches to teach these people like how to pull off different accents. Like you have these guys that can speak different languages and different accents. You know, there's movies where they'll even like create an alien language and they'll like make them speak that and without any accent. And then you have Chinese movies where the American cannot pull off any sort of Chinese without sounding like a complete idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's obviously that hasn't improved since, I don't know, the first white person to ever appear in a Chinese movie.
Exactly. But one thing I wanted to kind of talk about in the stream here before we go too far into kung fu movies. So you guys are both, because I talked to you guys said you're obviously you're both a libertarian, but you're kind of, I guess, like here would be the center, and you guys are like just off of it on either side, right? Is that a correct way of looking at it? Like Nicolette, you say you're a little more on the conservative, just a little bit, and more conservative. Shaine, you're a little bit more on the left.
Well, actually, when we test on that political compass, like doesn't matter what site we use, he's always still a little bit on the right.
Really?
Yeah, on the right, yeah.
Does it say what issues make you more onto the right?
For me, I think it more has to do with just economic issues, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, more capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less government.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Yeah, I gotta take one of those. I've seen, like, I took the one where like there was the election one. So they had all the candidates, and you would like take all these questions. Yeah, when I first took it, it told me I had to vote for Bernie Sanders. So
I think when I took it, I think it said Ted Cruz, and I was like, oh, fuck that guy.
When I took it, it said vote for Gary Johnson.
Oh. The least libertarian ever.
What is a libertarian?
Well, actually, Bill Weld, but yeah.
Bill Weld, exactly. Like, yeah, what's his name? Sarcasm and Liberty put up a thing today about like if you like, do libertarians trust the Libertarian Party leadership? And for me, I'm like, well, no, because I talked about this earlier today on our stream. I said, well, the different, like, I'm libertarian for the principle side of it, but like in terms of what happens in like the Libertarian Party or among libertarians themselves, I don't know that much really. Because like when I talked to you guys and you mentioned all the different podcasts you were listening to, and I'm like, never heard of any of those people.
Well, when the chair of the LP party, or the LP party of the Libertarian Party, which is, who fucking knows what LP means, but anyway, when the chair of the LP is talking shit about other libertarians, like big time libertarians, I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
you had a Twitter fight with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if you disagree with something, but to literally say that Tom Woods may actually be a Nazi or something, I'm like,
it's Tom Woods.
I mean, are you serious? Or fascist or something?
Oh, what about that thing? Or this is not the Libertarian Party, is it? I don't know, but the whole thing with Ron Paul.
Oh, and there was like, I don't think he was necessarily banned or whatever, but
they were like saying that he's alt-right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ron Paul.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Right.
So I'm not gonna say
Rand Paul. Like I've gotten I put out my thoughts on them before. Like, I think they're great guys. I think their policies are definitely good. You know, in the steps of more liberty, their views on government is definitely spot on. And you know, if I got to like, you know, if I had to like support them, yeah, sure, like I'd be for them. But like, there's been people I've dealt with in the Libertarian Party that have like they've put out posts like, if you don't support Ron Paul, I gotta wonder and you call yourself a libertarian, I gotta wonder what's wrong with you. And I'm like, okay. And it's the big thing that I kind of like talk about too with the Libertarian Party is during the election, everyone kind of like was really pushing the Libertarian Party as like, we're the reasonable side that is not sort of pushing you to like lesser of two evils. You know, we're the third option. We're the reasonable option. We're all about like not being about party politics. You know, we want less government in your life. Like basically, you know, the very kind of how Gary Johnson was really pushing to like get elected. He's like, you know, we're just trying to be reasonable, like you know, and then of course there was the push to get him into the debate, how this two-party system like pushed him out, and it was like, you know, we're not going to buy into like you got to either vote for Hillary, this corrupt politician, or Trump, this absolute joke. And after the election, people start going after all the Republicans, all the Trump supporters, because, you know, Trump's elected and it's all their fault. And then once they were done with them, then they started, for some reason, they actually started coming towards, at least for me, people started coming after me. Well, you're a libertarian. You voted third party. You're part of the problem. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
that's nonsense.
Yeah, why did you vote Democrat? What the fuck's wrong with you?
Exactly. And so I was like, okay, I voted on my beliefs, even though I knew Gary, you know, Johnson was not going to win. Like, and people are, how could you do that? It's like, because I vote on what I believe. I don't vote on what I'm told I'm supposed to vote on, or I don't vote on fear of one or the other. And then we started going. Then I started seeing like, I don't know if like there was some shifts within the party to basically, because they're being called out as the problem, if you want to call it that. That the party basically started going like, no, we're anti-Trump. And it's like, hold on, if we're supposed to be, you know, reasonable, if we're supposed to look at things, just break things down issue by issue, there are definitely good things Trump is doing. There are also bad things Trump is doing. Can't we look at it that way instead of join the fuck Trump bandwagon?
Yeah.
And then of course, you know, there was that thing I mentioned with the post about, you know, you got to support Ron Paul or I think something's wrong with you. And I basically said, since when are we into party politics all over again? I thought we were the party that wasn't about that.
Yeah.
And I said, because I can very much just as easily say, if you don't support Donald Trump and call yourself a Republican, I don't, you know, there's something wrong with you. Or if you say the same thing about Hillary and being a Democrat, there were Democrats that thought Hillary was a joke, and there are Republicans that still think Trump is a joke. There are libertarians that think Gary Johnson and Bill Weld was a horrible choice. But here we are.
Yeah.
We live with our decisions, and we have to look things, you know. I see Gary Johnson overall, like, for example, and I'm just going to come out and say this. So, like, you guys have heard of Adam Kokesh?
Yep.
Everyone's like, you know, he's going to run for president and all this. I think, as you know, libertarian, good for, you know, I'm for those principles. But when he talks, when I look at him overall, like, if you really want to enact change that is lasting in our government, I think you can't. Someone like him cannot be elected in a time like this. That's my thought. Now, because he's the kind of person that if he does get, you know, he's going to go in and basically try to completely, you know, turn the whole thing around, which I think could do more harm than good. Someone like Gary Johnson, as much as, you know, he's not as libertarian as I would like him to be, he would be someone that would take the proper steps in the direction of a more liberty-minded libertarian government. And I think the way our government is you need to take steps in that direction. That's how a republic is kind of set up, because there's such a division of Republicans and Democrats, nothing really gets done.
Yeah.
in one term.
I think if Ron Paul or even Rand Paul, even if he was elected, I think it would have been that direction.
It would be in the right direction.
It's not just we're gonna flip it over and there you go. Okay,
no president.
Just blow it all up at one day. I mean,
and that's
realistically that's not gonna happen.
Right, and that's kind of how like a lot of people are jumping on like Adam Kokesh because he's a principled man. He's against all these things, and I think someone like him as sort of an activist voice is great. But if he were to run for president, well, I know he's not going to get elected.
Right.
But even if he was, you're not going to even Gary Johnson was still a little ambitious. Like, I'm going to abolish the IRS. I'm like, hold on. I mean, great. I love that. Mm-hmm. But if you really look at it, can you really? I mean, at least start enacting changes to make tax cuts in general or cut spending. There's a big one.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell Congress to cut.
Cutting spending, I think, is more important than lowering taxes, but that's just my
opinion. Right. I mean, in both cases, they're both. There's pros in both, but I mean, it's like take the steps to maybe eventually remove. Maybe in a few terms, maybe in 50 years, now we become America that doesn't have an IRS or all these other huge government. That's how long it could take. But in today's world, today's America, the way our government is, there's just so much shit that you can't just shovel all of it out in one day.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I have a question for you then. Do you think that when whoever becomes president, even if they wanted to enact even just simple changes like that, especially like to foreign policy and things like that, that there's other forces behind them that would compel them to do otherwise? Like, for example, Donald Trump kind of ran on a platform of anti-war. And didn't Obama also run on an anti-war platform in the beginning?
You're talking like...
And then they all continue all the wars. So I feel like it doesn't really matter who's president. There's certain things that can't be.
I mean, we could sound a little Alex Jones in here and say, there's a deep state. I've heard theories on it, and I definitely we'll hear them out on those if they're reasonable and they're not sounding like some crazy Illuminati virgin sacrificing, blood whatever stuff. But I mean, I definitely believe there is definitely something that is behind government that is definitely keeping things the way they are, at least for certain issues. Like I do believe there is somewhat of a globalist agenda. There is definitely someone is doing some sort of social engineering with some sort of grand plan in mind. Right. Now, is it super deep where if a president tomorrow said I'm going to abolish the IRS and the next day he's dead? Probably not. But there is definitely something that is sort of nudging, I'd say. Imagine a president is a storm. But this deep state that we're talking about is the hurricane.
Yeah.
It's slowly moving across, affecting massive change, but it's or even, I shouldn't even say that way. Let's say a president is a temporary weather event, like a storm or sunshine or rain, and the deep state would be the climate. It's slowly changing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not I mean, not once again, I don't want to sound like Alex Jones, but as entertaining as he is, I don't subscribe too much to too crazy stuff. I've talked to plenty of conspiracy theorists that have told me some really wacky stuff. But in terms of the deep state thing, I've definitely heard some very compelling ideas on it. So I think there is some truth to it. But, I think there has to be some sort of grassroots movement to really work against it. The big thing now is, of course, you guys kind of probably know about too, people, libertarians and local governments and state governments trying to get elected.
Right.
Work our way up instead of just get a president in there.
Yeah.
I feel like the ultimate goal of libertarianism, or at least voluntarism, would be to make a lot of these huge decisions more on a state or local level.
Right.
Yeah, or each state.
Right now, it's kind of going to globalism, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's.
So, I guess, how would you envision sort of an ideal, just in a nutshell, an ideal sort of, or even just a more libertarian America?
Well, like I said before, I think a lot of the decisions that are made on a federal level right now should be made at the state or local level, because they know their communities better.
Right.
So, and we're a huge country. Like, a lot of the things that work in smaller countries, like socialized healthcare and stuff like that, they work because they're smaller countries.
Right.
People are more, they agree because they have the same culture, but not everywhere in the U.S. is like that. So
Right.
I think if it was done at the state or local level, then
yeah, what works here in Texas may not necessarily work in Minnesota or something, or something like that,
Right. Because I've talked about this too. It's like, I think the power should get less as you move up. So like the majority of power would rest with like the city. So like
basically,
if you want to talk, roads, our favorite thing.
Right.
Roads, public transport, even just like if you want to talk welfare and stuff, because you look at tax revenue they actually say, I think so taxes that are received in an area, mainly like sales taxes, a majority of sales taxes go to the city first.
Yeah.
That's taken in. So if I buy something in a city, that city gets that revenue that I put in. So, and I think, basically, your a majority of your power lies with I say municipality or city government. And then you go up to the state level, which handles everything going on at state. And then the federal level, honestly, I think the only thing the federal government should really ever serve for is like courts and defense, really. Maybe certain things that are specifically federally run things, like, I mean, I even think like the interstate, which is federal thing, like that should be just broken up to allow the states to take care of those roads. You could say, I think, and like the president would really just be truly just a public servant, not sort of like the guy running everything.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and of course, privatizing the shit out of a whole ton of stuff that we could privatize to save money.
Yeah, I know. But privatizing stuff is, so villainized because, I don't know, people think they can take advantage or...
Yeah, they think that they need some sort of policing in every industry, it seems. Like, we need someone to tell us what is good and what is bad.
Right.
Well, that's another thing I've been thinking about too, is how do you, so like people talk about, capitalism, like if you just allow certain industries to be unregulated, what do you do about monopolies then?
Well, didn't Dave Smith say monopolies will never last? Like, there will be other competition that will kick it out. Like, I mean, even like Apple just a couple of years ago was kind of a monopoly, and now there's a bunch of competition. Even Samsung's almost cutting them out now because I know a lot of people, like, I'm an iPhone person, but I'm still trying to convince people to be an iPhone person, but everybody's going to Samsung, and it's kind of annoying. But
well, one thing I've heard is like, so because like what are the monopolies that we know about in history?
In history?
Yeah, like in U.S. history, like you think about like Rockefeller and Carnegie, right, with steel and oil.
Right.
Those are the big ones that kind of pushed for breaking them up. The thing about them, I was actually is I've heard that like they weren't really like jacking up prices. They were just leading in the industry, and they provided cheap gas and cheap and efficient, ways of producing steel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's wrong today is you've actually had monopoly. So I think it depends on the monopoly. Like if there's a monopoly, like on something that we can say, okay, you guys are like manipulating a market instead of producing like a cheap, affordable product.
Right.
Then you break them up. But then, then you get into the subjective way of, okay, who's going to determine what's good and what's bad? which is the whole question of the state. Like, how is the state allowed to deal with these things? For example, like, there's somewhat of a monopoly in like telecom. So like everyone knows like Comcast owns a majority of the cable infrastructure in the country.
Right.
How do we deal with that? You know?
Well, I mean, you can kind of say we're already dealing, you know, Netflix and Amazon and Hulu. We're kind of hurting the cable companies, you know, with people not watching as much television because they can just go on their phone.
No, I get that. Yeah. So then you kind of get into, so, you know, in some markets you let competition deal with it. In other markets, you do something else. So,
because I mean, it is a realistic thing to say that, you know, say for example, a company's been successful for 5-10 years, you know, and their prices have been pretty steady or, you know, pretty consistent, and then they come up with a new product, and they're like, you know what, we've been so successful, we don't really have to worry about, you know, everything's been about $200. Let's make it $550. Why not? Fuck it, because we know people are gonna buy it anyway because it's us, you know. But say that thing like it fails. Like PlayStation 3 was a good example where that thing when it came out was like $800, and you're like, are you fucking serious? And look what happened. It was like didn't sell as well as Xbox 360, and then Microsoft's like, ha, now we got the competition that you used to have,
right,
and all that. So
yeah, the market will ultimately.
Yeah, and then they learned their lesson, and now look, PS4 is beating the shit out of, you know, Xbox One, you know. So
yeah, when that came out,
like,
that was
I guess we, you know, fucked up. So let's go back to, you know, having our prices back down to $250 or something.
I think it would, yeah. Then it would have to come down to also like, what do you how much are you willing to pay for something, for what? Like, I've thought about like, well, how come I can go buy like a decent pair of jeans at a Walmart for like $20,
Mm-hmm.
but then I can also go over to Abercrombie and Fitch and buy a just maybe as good as pair of jeans for $200.
Well, that's because it depends on what you value. Because if you value the brand name, then that's what you're going to buy.
Right.
And that's the thing too. I think that kind of flies in the face of the argument with like more left-leaning or even socialists that kind of go and say, well, like the market could just like, what about, you know, market's just going to go nuts. Like, what do you mean the market? Like, they don't understand that like if people don't buy something, that company will not put out that price. Like, you do have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of choices, you know, with jeans. I mean, like you said, go to Walmart. If you don't have that much money, let's just go to Walmart and get like a $20, you know, pair of jeans, or like you're saying, Abercrombie and Fitch, or, you know, or wherever that's more higher up and, you know, more fancy, if you want to say.
It depends on what you can afford and what your values are, I think.
Yeah. And if you can afford it, you know, there's gonna be low affordable things that you can get because you can't afford something that's $100 as opposed to something that's $10. You know, so there's always gonna be something there. I mean, it's not gonna be as good of quality, but you got it because it's cheap.
Right. Now, with that said, on choices and the market, you think that also applies? Do you guys believe it also applies to like wages? So like if you wanted better wages, should the workers demand it more, or should the companies just like offer better?
I think that depends. Like, or sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is minimum wage a good thing? Is really what I'm getting to.
I don't know.
Well, if you're forcing companies, like say like McDonald's, for example, everyone wants $15 an hour for some stupid reason.
It's just gonna make everything jack up.
I mean, think about it. Everybody's gonna be paid $15 an hour for a minimum. I mean, McDonald's is a massive corporation, so maybe it won't hurt them as much, but they're still gonna lose some money out of that because I gotta pay these workers at least $15 an hour.
All the small businesses are gonna.
Yeah, all the small businesses are gonna suffer if minimum wage is at $15 an hour, like at a federal level. Because if I'm a small business and I only have 5, you know, people that I've employed, and I had to pay each one $15 an hour, that, you know, 15 times 5 is what? 30, 45, that's $75 right there. Just for employees for 1 hour.
Yeah, and then
I didn't sell anything, well, I'm not gonna last that long. You know?
Right. The thing I got to see the effects of minimum wage changing firsthand. So I was general manager for a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and minimum wage here in Minnesota is $9.50.
Oh.
Yeah, so it went from 8 to 9. I was working there when went from 8 to 9. So in the day that it happened, we started within the first week, and my boss basically came at me and said, "Well, we need to like deal with this." He goes, "So we're going to raise the price on this food item and that food item,
Yeah.
and on these, and this is going up."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, and he goes, "You're going to have to sacrifice one employee during the rush." I'm like, in these specific areas of the restaurant. I'm like, so it was like 2 total, and I'm like, okay. And he goes, because we have to like adjust for costs, and I'm like,
Right.
so we were forced to work harder, which diminishes quality, but we also have to charge prices higher, which can really change the demand now because people aren't as willing to pay at that price.
Right.
So that was at least just the firsthand sort of what I saw how wages worked, and I got to sort of see the labor costs and everything, and which gives me a better appreciation of understanding.
What kind of restaurant did you work at?
It was a chain restaurant. We'll just say that.
Okay, so say for example, a steak was, I don't know, $15, and then after the minimum wage happened, raised to $1, say it went up to like 25 or something because you had to kind of balance the cost, right?
It would more so go up to like 17.
Okay.
But it was enough that people noticed. This actually wasn't like a steak place. This was actually chain restaurant, a place. I'll tell you guys off stream. Just I don't want to say too much on a public.
No, I understand, but I'm just I'm just using an example.
Right. It was, but we would see the sort of firsthand the price changes and how that affected labor costs, and we had to adjust for that. And what's crazy is people are like, companies are just supposed to like pay people better, and the more I really even understood, like people are complaining about Trump's big tax cuts for corporate tax.
Right.
When I saw firsthand how it's actually been a good thing. The tax cuts actually has led to, first off, the way businesses work. So my friend Brooke is actually he's worked with, he understands a lot of this with how corporations deal with these massive tax cuts. So he goes, well, now they have like an extra 10-15% of money they don't have to pay in taxes, but they don't want to have that on the books. They don't want to have to put that away because now there's taxes on there's just the way the numbers play out. He says it's actually better for them to write it off as giving everyone a raise or a bonus,
which is what a lot of companies have been doing.
Right. People don't understand that. They think, oh, that's just more money for them to hoard and put away. The higher you raise taxes, the more incentive you give big businesses to actually hide their money.
Yeah.
The more you lower taxes, the more they're willing to invest and try to spend their money. And they're not going to oh, I got a $15,000, 15% tax rate, decrease. I'm just going to go buy a fucking island. It's no. They're going to they're thinking, hey, we got money. Let's try to make more money. So let's give it to our employees so they'll be happy enough to work harder. And we make more money in the process. I mean, that's just basic.
Yeah, instead of being, going from a 10% to a 15%, you're going to go to a 12%, which 3% may not sound like a lot, but when you see the, where from the beginning to the end of that tax bracket, it's not too bad. Yeah.
Right. I've already started seeing a tax cut in my paychecks now. I get a direct deposit, and it will say oh, I'm actually getting it's not. But if you look at the numbers across a whole year, I'm already seeing a slight decrease. It was always my check would always read off 26% deducted for withholding. Now it says 22%.
Yeah.
Now that's going to play out over the rest of the year. So I'm already saving money so the government doesn't take as much money out of my check. Plus, I get a bigger return next year.
Yeah.
So But it's all about tax cuts for the rich, and rich people are all evil.
I mean, just think about like we were just saying. The more money you make, the more you're taxed.
Well, that's a whole nother issue too.
And yet the rich don't pay their fair. Like, how the fuck do they not pay their fair share when they're making all this money and they're taxed all this massive amount? Like, really?
The top 1% account for like more than 50% of all tax revenue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you look at and then they also talk about like, oh, we need to tax so we can get more money. There's this thing called have you guys heard of the Laffer curve?
I don't know.
So the Laffer curve is a theory in economics that basically says there is a sweet spot in different countries have it differently. There's a sweet spot between 0% taxation and 100% taxation where you can maximize revenue. Somewhere in there's a sweet spot where people are making enough money that you get the perfect amount of revenue, where you're taxing them just right. So because if you tax them too much, revenue can go down because people don't have the incentive to make more money. If you tax them too little, you're not getting the maximum revenue. So there's a spot apparently where you can get the maximum revenue with the maximum efficiency, where people are making the most money for you. Now, I mean, obviously, still taxation is still theft, but that's just one thing to look at.
Right.
And then there's also what's called Hauser's law. Hauser's law, it looks at shows that taxation compared to like how much of your GDP is actually the percent of GDP of is taxes. So like our GDP, I don't know, it's whatever. Let's say our GDP is like $19 trillion a year, or 20 trillion, just to round it off. On average, in the U.S., from like the 50s and 60s, sort of the liberals' wet dream of taxation, 91% at the top bracket. They always go nuts over that. But in reality, if you look at the tax rates, how they have shifted over the years, how they've actually come down to where they are today, still progressive, still sucks, but the percentage of GDP in revenue, tax revenue, has always hovered between 17 and 19%. That doesn't change. So no matter how much or how little you tax, it's going to hover at that number. It's not like just tomorrow we're going to double the tax rate for all brackets and we're going to double the percentage, because it also affects everything else. So it's dumb to think, oh, tax more so we can spend more. It's like, no. Tax more and you make less. You don't make as a percentage of your production. You're always going to be between 17 and 19% of your GDP. Right. And you look at that, it's like, it's not really a smart move. Then it's because you're not. So.
Yeah, or raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, so that milk will be $4 or $5 a gallon.
Oh yeah, it's called the wage price spiral. You raise wages, prices go up. Yeah, exactly. And then of course there's also
demand too. You have also think about the supply as well.
Right. Here in Minnesota, they had something that really messed with food prices when ethanol became really popular. Which it still is. When it first kicked in, Minnesota being a huge corn producer, it hiked prices up by like 50% of food. Wow. Because anything tied to corn rose in price. Cows had to be fed by corn, while most of the corn is being subsidized to go put in the ethanol. So that rose the prices of milk, rose the prices of eggs, rose the prices of certain grains, because now vehicles were using ethanol. Now it's more expensive. Because I don't know, gotta be.
It's better for the environment.
Exactly, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of people don't quite understand the direct effect that taxes have on taxes and subsidizing. When the visible hand messes with the invisible hand, you get a mess.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so yeah. I'd say the best thing is the way that people really can affect change is, well, first of all, we've already talked about less spending, and create more incentive for people to want to make more money. You know, because if people don't want to make money, you don't get revenue. I mean, from the standpoint if you're still, you know, taxing people.
Right.
I always got to remember, like, I could talk about taxes, but at the same time, still theft.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ain't that the truth?
But the social contract. I've actually talked to people about that. I'm like,
I think so, yeah.
well, you can leave this country if you don't like it. Yeah, and go where?
If you don't like living in this country, you can get out.
One thing you guys can look into is a new nation that's going to be forming. I think I told you about. Did I tell you guys about this?
I don't think so.
Liberland. Liberland is a micronation that is forming. It is between Serbia and Croatia. It's a small, it's literally like 2 square miles of land. That this group of libertarians, they acquired this land, but due to the political climate in the region, they're still working out sort of a safe way to get in there because there's been conflicts over that land.
Mm-hmm.
But no one really goes there. So they've acquired the land, but they're working out security issues with both neighboring nations. What they're doing is they're going to form this libertarian country. It'll be a country with a constitution with basically a lot of the freedoms that that are offered by the Bill of Rights in the U.S. here. But it's going to be pretty much fully capitalistic, just libertarian paradise. Once it's formed, they have like a handful of backers that are like billionaires that are going to invest in the basically the business of it, because the country is going to be a country with elected officials and everything, but it will be run very much like a business, almost actually a corporation almost. So it's funny because your citizenship, so you have citizenship, you go there, you buy a place to live. It's going to be kind of like a Singapore, just small nation, lots of high-rise buildings and such, very tourist kind of area.
Yeah.
But they said once you attain citizenship, your citizenship acts as a share of the company. So you become a shareholder and a citizen of a country.
Oh, that's cool.
It was run like a business. Kind of like that Native American thing we're talking about.
Yeah. Way to turn it on, do a callback.
Exactly. So they're going to build this country. I think the big thing is why it's so tricky now is once the country is actually formed, they'll be able to build an airport so you fly straight into there instead of going through the neighboring countries. But yeah, look it up. It's Liberland, Liberland. There's my friend Brooke went to the UK Libertarian conference in London, and he met the group of people that are working on the project, and they were giving a talk on a lot of the sort of the progress. Like they're in their final stages of forming the country.
Yeah,
the Libertarian Party in the UK is very different from the one in the US. Because over there, they're an overwhelming minority, and they tend to be a lot more. He says it seems they're a lot more organized than here in the U.S. because they're so small still.
Right.
And he said they talked about different things like trying to create trying to bring in more gun rights in the UK. Because they have some funny laws there. Like the way they classify guns is by length of the gun. So like if it's a certain length, it's a handgun. If it's even longer, it's like a shotgun, and if it's longer than that, it's a rifle. And I guess it's like there's some law that like depending upon the length of the gun, you can or can't own certain things. So like people will try to get a handgun to be classified as a shotgun by taking a wire and attaching it to the barrel of a handgun to make it longer to pass the regulation as a shotgun. I thought it was funny. But Anyways, guess any thoughts you guys have? Any things you guys want to share from everything we've talked about? We're kind of at about an hour and a half here to stream. I know it's getting a little late for us.
Yeah, it is. So just plug your channel. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I guess our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com, and then you just look up Hapa Supremacy. It's actually youtube.com/c/Hapa Supremacy, and it's right there.
Right. Well, yeah, and I'll put all that in the link below.
Yeah, we actually uploaded a video last night for Valentine's Day, so definitely give that a look.
Yep.
How romantic.
Oh, it's definitely romantic, trust me.
Yeah, like I said, I'll be putting a link to you guys' channels below as well as your Twitters. I know you guys are pretty active on that. It's kind of where you got started too, right?
That's our home.
Yeah, basically.
You guys live on Twitter. But yeah, you guys, everyone check them out. Actually, we got some viewers, which is cool. Got a couple. But yeah, check out their channels, Hapa Supremacy, supporting the Hapa ethno state.
Yeah, you can also, we also made a maker support, so if you like our content, you can definitely give us a pledge, and
then we'll make better content.
Yeah, we'll make even better content.
Maker support is definitely taking Patreon on, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna be making some other sites like other pages for that. We'll probably make a Patreon too in the future, but maker support is the first one we went to. So
yeah, we have to figure out what to do for Patreon now. Like, what would be worth $1? That kind of thing.
I don't know. Most people don't even do anything for $1. Just thanks for the money, and then $5. Hey,
those people are like really popular.
I know. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
But follow them on Twitter. Subscribe to their channel, as well as like, comment, and subscribe to this stream and my channel as well. I'll plug my channel. No. But yeah, if you guys have anything you guys want me to talk about next time, and maybe other guests, maybe you guys want to have on here or on yours, or either way, I'm always about trying to get more people to talk to, not just libertarians, not just Hapa people, but also, I think the goal is to just have discussions with different people. I'm liking going down the route. Like, do you guys know Andy Worski?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How he's like has streams on with a lot of different people. That's kind of what I'm pushing for. Now, I don't want to get any drama. I like hearing different ideas, having different discussions.
Yeah.
And that's definitely an important thing in a climate like today, because
it's definitely important to at least have some kind of discussions. Fuck you, hate you, remember, and at least talk.
I actually had someone tell me today, because I had a question about, not to get too much into it, but I asked a question about the school shooting thing in Florida, and I said, okay, you want to politicize this whole thing, you want to talk about gun control, what do you want done? And they were like, I know you're against gun control, so I'm not even going to debate you. I'm not even going to answer the question.
Right.
That doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
Even if we're not elected officials, even if we're the citizens, we're the people, we need to have these conversations so people can feel. Right.
Not that there's already enough gun control in this country already. You know?
Right. But the discussion is still important. And, instead of politicizing and just calling each other names and saying, we're all gun happy Americans versus the gun control, ban all guns. It's like, have a discussion and
ban
murder. Ban murder. We need to ban murder. You know what's really bad? That's just as bad as gun violence? Car accidents. We gotta ban cars.
We need to ban car accidents. We just need to ban dying.
Ban dying. Ban alcohol. Ban drugs. There's already a war on drugs, but anyway.
All those drugs are illegal, but because the moment like the government started banning things like drugs, like, do you guys remember when drugs like instantly all disappeared? All the illegal drugs in the world just. In the U.S., at least, they all disappeared.
Yeah, remember that amendment in the Constitution that prohibited alcohol? and then the 21st Amendment rescinded that amendment. Yeah, I remember that.
It was like all the alcohol in the country like disappeared.
That's like a completely different topic. Alcohol and guns aren't even the same thing. Like, what are you talking about?
There was no crime surrounding the alcohol at all. There was no
every single time a drunk driver kills someone or is killed in an accident or wherever, no one goes, maybe we should do something about this alcohol. We should ban cars. These cars are killing people. But no, it's always the guns. Every single time, it's always guns.
Well,
always the guns.
Trucks are killing people in Europe.
In the UK,
armed guards in the schools. Why do you want kids to be exposed?
That's why you have those Merkels. Exactly. That's why you have those Merkels Legos I told you about. Those giant blocks in the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
To save you from your peace trucks going down the road. But thanks for coming on to the show, guys. I know it's getting a little late, but we did get some viewers, which is good. But yeah, like I said, subscribe to those guys, follow them on Twitter, as well as myself on my channel. We always have very good discussions on Twitter. I know I haven't gotten too much into these, but I see you guys get into a whole lot of fun discussions.
Yeah, I was really wanting to get into with Funkcase. He's an EDM, he's a DJ, but he didn't really take my.
No, you gotta keep. This is how you just gotta keep attacking people, and then they will attack you back. That's how you do it.
And you guys should follow me on Twitter. Just saying.
I haven't followed you.
No, neither of you guys follow me.
Oh, you called us out.
I'm gonna have the Redhead Libertarian on here, and she already follows me on Twitter.
Who's this?
The Redhead Libertarian.
Oh my God.
No, she's pretty new.
She started in December and blew up. Like, I followed her way back in early January, and she blew up to like 2,000 plus followers. And I just can't think why. I mean, she's a libertarian. Oh, that's right. She's a woman.
Yeah, no, look at her.
Woman privilege.
She has almost 4,000.
I'm almost at 4,000. So if anyone's watching who's not following me on Twitter, you should.
I am at a strong 28.
Oh, awesome! We're getting there.
Actually, you're at 29.
Going strong.
But hey, look at that. But yeah, thanks for coming on, guys, and everyone. Thanks for watching. So we are on Thursdays at 11 in the morning. For Brooke and myself, but depending upon the guests that we'll be having on, we'll have them on at random times, sometimes at night, since that's the best for everyone. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for you guys coming on, and we will see you all later.